Well, joining me this week are Jenni Davidson from Holyrood Magazine, Rachel Watson, political editor at the Scottish Daily Mail, and the stand-up comedian and former Labour Special Advisor, Ayesha Hazarika. Well, Jenni, what did you make of Willie Rennie? Maybe I was just being irritating, but is it significant that when I asked him to rule out a coalition with the Tories at Westminster, he immediately ruled it out? And when I asked him to rule out a coalition with Ruth Davidson, he said, can't we talk about something else?
Couldn't comment on whether you're irritating, Gordon, obviously, not on live TV.
I'm sure I am.
But yeah, I thought it was interesting. I mean, clearly the Lib Dems know that the coalition with the Tories at Westminster was absolutely toxic, and they should definitely be really clear they're not going there again. But yeah, he didn't rule out any future coalition in the Scottish Parliament with Ruth Davidson, and obviously that does mean you know, they've probably not actually decided 100% either way, so that is still open as a possibility.
Ayesha, I don't know if you saw John McDonnell talking to Andrew Marr, but what he said about, I mean, look, it's becoming like Kremlinology used to be, isn't it, trying to work out what Labour's position is, but he sounded much more upbeat on the idea of a second referendum than Jeremy Corbyn has sounded without, I'm not sure he actually said anything different.
I mean, John McDonnell has often lent in more to sort of showing a bit more leg to the sort of People's Vote Brigade in the Labour Party. But the Labour Party are so conflicted on Brexit and this issue of the second referendum. They're the sort of Vicky Pollard of politics, yeah but no, but yeah but no. And their plan, which has been constructive ambiguity, has actually proved to be quite destructive, as we just saw in the local elections. What they are trying to do is be all things to all people, but they're pleasing nobody at the same time. And I understand why Corbyn has adopted this strategy, but we aren't in 2017 anymore. We're now in 2019. Brexit is the #1 issue for a lot of people, and the Labour Party has got to come off the fence on it.
Yeah, Rachel, you know, when you watch John McDonnell, you sort of, oh my gosh, this is very different from the kind of tone that Jeremy Corbyn has adopted. He talked about how it's something they've put on the table in the talks with the government. He seemed very bleak about whether there would be an agreement. He accused Theresa May of breaching trust because of what she said in the Mail this morning about the discussions. But then when you thought about it for a minute, you think, well, is that actually anything different from what Jeremy Corbyn said?
I think, as Ayesha said there, they've tried to have a policy where they try and please everyone, and it's not working. And I think the council election, these local government elections down south, might be enough. Or I think the Conservatives are hoping that's enough to bounce Labour into backing them in some way. And I think this policy of trying to please everyone is maybe something Labour should have learnt from in 2014, because in Scotland we see how this, you know, they weren't as, you know, they're seen as not being as strong as the Conservatives were on the union. And that's something they've kind of continued now. We see Richard Leonard say one thing where we see the UK party say another. And I just think that this second referendum for them has been absolutely chaotic for the party, this kind of...
But in a sense, no matter what lesson you learn from the local elections, and of course there are others in Labour who say, no, hang on a minute, we lost Leave voters, particularly in the north, who are fed up with this. I mean, you can understand the logic of saying, look, whatever the truth of any of that, we just need to get this off the table because it's poisonous. I mean, their thinking is pretty much the same as Theresa May's thinking, isn't it? Just do something.
It's quite hard for Labour to just... First of all, Labour's not in control of the situation.
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right. The big lesson that the Labour Party should take, particularly from that 2014 into 2015 experiences, yes, it's important to try and increase your reach, but don't take your base for granted. I remember on the morning of the Scottish independence referendum, a Labour official said, don't worry, all these people will come back to vote Labour in the general election, and of course they didn't.
No, but what Labour would say, or some people in Labour would say, was, hang on a minute, Leave voters in the north of England, they are our base, and you can't say they're not our base.
But they're not all our base. If you look, also remember, Jeremy Corbyn was elected on a mandate saying, I'm going to listen to the membership of this party. The overwhelming majority of Labour members want a second referendum. Also, even in Labour Leave seats, statistics show that there are about 30% of constituents who voted Remain as well. So the big electoral danger for Labour is they're going to not only lose those Labour Leave seat people, they're going to lose some of their Remain base as well. And remember, it's a very different picture in Scotland as well. And Labour cannot win a majority if it doesn't win seats in Scotland. OK, on which subject, Jenny? There was, I think we're going to show some pictures of it. There was a big all under one banner march this weekend in favour of independence through Glasgow. Yes, so there we are. They've got pictures of it there. Obviously, this has been going on for some time. I mean, is it helpful to the cause of independence, this sort of thing? Or I mean, it all seems very friendly and very cheerful. But is it helpful or harmful?
I don't think it's necessarily helpful. I mean, it's helpful for those involved kind of feel that they're getting together and they're doing something and look, you know, we're still here, we're still campaigning. I don't think it's helpful in terms of actually persuading someone who's not persuaded. You're not going to be persuaded by a big bunch of people marching through the city with flags. You're going to be persuaded by actual arguments. So it's things like currency, it's things like why, you know, good reasons for why the country would be better independent, and answering questions about, you know, things that might go wrong. That's what's going to persuade people who are, you know, on the fence, undecided at the moment. So the march is a nice thing to do for those who want to do it, but it's not making a difference.
But that issue of you need to talk to the people who don't agree with you rather than the people who do, that's an issue for the Conservatives, isn't it, Rachel? I mean, you know, obviously we've heard Ruth Davidson coming out with a very strong message. If you don't want another independence referendum, the Scottish Conservatives are the people to go for. But there are some murmurs saying, well, that's fine, and that's played quite well for the Scottish Tories so far. But maybe there needs to be a wee bit more than that.
I think, yeah, and I was actually, we were talking about it this morning, and Ruth's speech was a little bit more than that yesterday, and I think she's worked, and the Conservatives have been working hard on that ahead of her return. Of course, the Conservatives would want, you know, it's helpful to the SNP and the Conservatives going into the Holyrood elections that we talk about things like independence and tax, for example. But Ruth did bring in some policy yesterday, which is maybe something that she's been criticised for over the past of, oh, the Conservatives, we're only going to vote, you know, you should only vote for them because they're against independence, which, you know, has worked well in the past with, you know, we see what's happened with Labour since 2014. But I think, you know, they obviously do need to, if she's serious about being First Minister, needs to come forward with these policy ideas. And yesterday she spoke about changes to education and training. She spoke about the economy, climate change and kind of more jobs in the green energy sector. And I think that is something that she will have to work on in the next 2 years.
All right, we're going to be very unfair and finish by asking you all to make a forecast. I know it's impossible to forecast anything at the moment. And do you think, Jenny, Labour and the Tories will do a deal on Brexit?
I think they will ultimately, actually, yes. I think they'll get to something that's some kind of customs union-ish.
Oh, so you think they will? Rachel?
I think there will be some movement on it. I think the council elections are a real warning to both parties. You know, the Conservatives did terribly in them. There's no doubt about that. But Labour didn't do nearly as well as they would have hoped for either. And I wonder if that is enough to bounce them into support.
Ayesha, I know you don't want them to do a deal, I don't think, but will they?
I think if Jeremy Corbyn is seen to bail out Theresa May at a time when this is the most shambolic government in the history of recent memory, I think he will pay a heavy price for it.
Right. That's still not a yes or no. So, all right. Well, no, we're going to have to leave it there. That's it. I'm back with Politics Scotland on Wednesday. Goodbye.